Hey guys, Tommy Carrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got a great show coming up. Thank you for watching. Really, it's kind of been like an overarching goal of mine for the podcast, aside from all the selfish and egotistical and financial reasons. I've always wanted to at least get something good out of it. It's like in college. Every once in a while, we'd have these like giant parties at the frat house, but we would we like the red. I don't. It's probably illegal, but the Red Cross would buy us a keg if we all donated blood. Which now that I say it out loud, I'm like, that's absolutely illegal. But we would all do that, and then our blood would be
I
low.
hope they
So
got the blood before.
no, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So we got a free keg, and it was kind of subjectively like twice as strong. So aside from just like hedonism and debauchery, like we did something good, and that's kind of been my overarching goal for this podcast. Is like before it ends, before I die, I just want something good to come from it. Obviously, everyone knows I've said it a million times with the podcast. Lost my older brother to suicide, and I've used psychedelics personally for my own healing and or religious reasons, and they've helped enormously. So the overarching thing for me is like before this all ends and I die, like if I can just move the needle on either the Overton window of acceptance all the way to like officially regulated and subscribed to medications for trauma via psychedelics, I feel like my brother's death might not be in vain. You guys both have military backgrounds, and I've had on other guys as well with military backgrounds who use psychedelics for various reasons, religious and or healing. Um, and so, for what little I can do with the podcast, I found is like it's probably not going to be me researching in a lab in a white coat, but rather probably just being able to put people together. Clay, because you've been on here the most recently, and Benjamin Moore hasn't. Ben, could you please introduce yourself for everyone and kind of what your background is and what you're doing with this?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you. I spent 10 years in the Army, and through the process, I got put on recruiting assignment. And when that happened, I everything collapsed onto me, and all the stuff, all the things that I was avoiding, the reasons why I joined the Army, um, the reasons why I was running from everything towards something else, is like, okay, that came to a head. And in that process, thankfully, I had someone that I served with who was a psychonaut, and got me in the fields of the medicine. And so I started working on psychedelics on myself, and like any good like any good soldier, I was like, oh, this works. I'm just going to keep hammering at it, like going to the gym, like relentlessly, right? And so I went through the process, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm well trained. I have enough understanding of like, but what else? Like, what's going on with everyone else? So I decided I needed to help other people and expand that beyond myself. So while I was still serving, I started working with veterans and serving them medicine and trying to figure out how to align them with places and medicines that would help them. And so, in doing that, I got hooked up with my now business partner. We started a church, or multiple churches, and still to this day, we've been distributing medicine. The church is called the Church of the Sacred Synthesis, and we've been distributing medicine around the country. At one point, we were worldwide, but I realized that Interpol doesn't have religious freedom, so I wanted to kind of dial that back and just maintain the. Because I know there's service members all over the world. I sat with a few weeks ago. I sat with an IDF soldier. So there's people all over the world that need this, and this like brings this healing into center where we realize we're all humans. We're all fighting the same fight. We just wear a different outfit.
Mm.
So, but yeah, that is really given me a lot of energy, and I've lost a lot of friends to suicide, and I think it's very important to acknowledge that there are solutions, and that maybe there isn't like a silver bullet per se, but psychedelics seem to be the thing that works. And at the minimum, it's like an acute intervention, which will get people off the cliff. And so I'm trying my best to continue to bring those to people in the works that I do on a regular basis.
That's yeah. I mean, I think Ram Dass said said we're all God and drag, and we're all just walking each other home. And that's kind of a feeling you get when you go into that sort of like deep healing, I don't know, subjective experience. You stop seeing others as like, oh, that guy, and you're like, oh, that's just a dude with a wife and a kid who probably had a dog when he was little, who kind of remembers his grandpa. And you're like, oh, that's just me. He's over there, but like that's the same dude who's like, oh, he's probably, I don't know, scared of not being able to provide and like what's going on in the world. And it does kind of it does kind of shake you out of the layers of learned truth, which isn't always truth. That's funny you said about Interpol. It's a Terrence McKenna quote. When somebody was like asking him, like, "How come you haven't been like killed yet?" And he goes, "Use big words and keep the meeting small." Because he goes, the issue you get to is when you start trying to take on the globe. He goes, don't do it. Don't do it. You're not going to change
Right.
DC. You know, whoever's in office at the time, he's like, H.W. Bush doesn't want to hear about this. He's like, so we keep it small. But
That's right.
that I think there's a lot of truth to that. And then Clay, for everyone who doesn't know your background, specifically with this, not all the other
Yeah,
stuff, but
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Barbarian, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm a Marine Corps and Army veteran, retired, medically retired like a decade ago or so. Uh, I started in psychedelics for myself about 2 years ago, and walked through the process and was called to found a church very specifically about 6 months ago for to get the holy sacrament of psilocybin to soldiers for pretty much exactly the same reason. Uh, yeah, so I've been doing it off the books for some time now, but yeah, now we're official Ominous Dominus, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and it's I think what Ben said is kind of the best way to say. I think Clay and I talked about this last time, but getting people off the cliff, like, and by no means, like, I talk about psychedelics all the time. Some people are like, yeah, you know, not everyone can do it all the time. I've done it 5 times in 5 years, and it's been
Right.
8 years since I've done it. Like, it's not. Again, Terrence McKenna was like, yeah, I asked my best friend one. He's like, I asked Timothy Leary once. He was like, what was your favorite drug? And he was like, DMT. He's like, when's the last time you did it? And he was like, 33 years ago this fall. And he's like, wait, what? And it's like, but really, it is. It's, I mean, you don't need a knee surgery every
No, yeah,
year. It's
fuck
just,
no, man.
but what you said about bringing people back from the cliff, and I think Clay and I talked about it last time, and the analogy I used is like when I don't sleep enough, I get over analytical about the podcast and projections and how is it going to be funded. And I always find that my view of that is skewed. It's like my rifle isn't sighted. And so when I'm in that mode of like sleep deprivation or anxiety, I always just tell myself, just go through the motions today and go to bed. That's all I have to do today. Tomorrow we'll worry about, you know, whatever 3, 6, 9, 12 month projections. And that is what coming back from the cliff, to at least for me subjectively, is what it felt like. I can't speak to long term use or micro because I actually don't know. But what I do know from my own experiences is it's like an effective flare. It's an effective 911, and it's not 100%
Yeah.
effective. It just nothing is, but I think way more than everything else. Like, hey, bro, if you need anything, call me. That means call.
Even the science math on that, it's more like 80%, but that's pretty impressive.
Well, and
Like that's
then
a lot. That's a big number
Well,
for,
I think
a one
also,
shot dose.
I think like thinking about too, like what is the intention or the purpose of what we're trying to, or what our expectations are, like because we've introduced this medicalized perspective, we're using it's like we say like a medicine, like we take a pill and we get this effect. But
mm,
really, my belief and feeling is this is an ongoing process that we're using these plants, these animals, these fungi to realign ourselves, like shoot a new azimuth, so we have a new direction.
mm,
It doesn't mean that we're not going to have sadness. It doesn't mean we're not going to have anxiety. It doesn't mean we're not going to have stress. But what it means is that the path is that those things are worth our experience and our time and our efforts. So it's worth it to feel stress. It's worth it to feel these things because we've created a destination for ourselves, and the medicines help to sort of erode away the missing mission, where especially for veterans or service members, really anyone that has a goal-oriented life perspective, many of us, our perspectives are given to us. We're assigned a mission, a task, even from childhood. Like we're told how to do this, how to do that, what to do, who to be. And so what we do is realize that at some point in our life, if that wasn't in alignment with ourselves, that holy shit, I'm living a life that's not mine. And
Mm.
then that's when all this like stress comes in because people are like, I'm making all these choices, but I don't want to do this dream.
Yeah.
I don't want to have this. So the psychedelics, like they're really like off everyone. I'm living the dream I want to live. And of course there's stress. It's like going to the gym to get big, right? You gotta work out. It's gonna be hard. But the goal, because it's coming from ourselves, from our own intention, is worth the effort. It's worth the
Mm.
stress.
And Clay, I'll get to those after. But I was gonna say, yeah, in terms of the new, I don't know, I've struggled for years to think about how to phrase it, and the best I can kind of I've come to over the years is, for me at least, psychedelics have been, I don't know what they're called, like a burn break or like a fire line. What is it when there's a forest fire and they purposely like make a
Oh yeah,
perimeter and they
fire
just
one. Yeah.
Fire, yeah.
burn it all, throw dirt in it? That's like the best way I've been able to, I don't know, verbalize what it is for me. And by that I mean, so like a couple years after like I lost my brother and I was living at home and I was fat as shit and I was coming off benzos and blah blah blah. Any little thing could really spiral. Like any spark could spiral into a forest fire where it would be like, I'm late for work today. I have a minimum wage job and I'm 30. What am I? And then it would very quickly be like, oh, you're a loser. Your girlfriend broke up with you. None of your friends talk to you. You live at home. You lost your brother. Like you're and it would just very quickly go down to DEFCON 1. What I found through psychedelics was it kind of cut off the outermost. Like, you're not a piece of shit. What happened to your brother sucks, but you're just in a shit spot right now. And yeah, it's not cool living at home. It's not fun, but you'll get out of this. Yeah, you can lose the weight. You can get off the benzos. You can go get a haircut, and it would almost stop it from spiraling into like a forest fire, and which might not sound like much to someone, but if any day any little thing can just immediately escalate to nuclear war, the ability to cut that off, and then as you kind of move forward, and as you said, there's still stress, still anxiety, still I'm a chronically anxious person, but still, it's a zillion times better after psychedelic experiences, and if you keep hammering away at it, you can almost add like another interior fire break, and then another one, and another one. It gets smaller to where it's still. I mean, dude, doing this podcast, it's a one man operation, and every day I feel like I'm on a plane with one wing, like on fire, and like, all right, but it doesn't it doesn't take off until like this existential breakdown, which is kind of what you need. It's like, well, then how great is it? And it's like, well, it's not there to cure the world. It helps you from going suicidal. It really is that, Clay.
Well, I mean, I think that's exactly the point. It's like getting paramedics to show up to the car wreck. All right, we can intervene with that immediate suicidal thought. I've seen it work a million times. All right, and package and bundle. Some people that's going to be good enough. They just need a band-aid and a little bandage on the arm. Some people are going to get past that suicidal phase right there with the first dose. What they're going to find is they actually do need like psychiatric help, or
Mm-hmm.
they need like a deeper medicinal healing from outside of this country with somebody that specializes in that. And that's fine too. We have the resource in the network to help them with that. But that's really how I see what we do for the most part. There are other people that just after this first dose, they'll just want to walk the spirit path. That's fine. As far as these interventions go, that's how I see it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
really kind of how it works.
Yeah, it's yeah. There's that moment of like the first time you do like therapy, and then you're like, oh, that kind of worked. Oh man, I've been calling everyone that goes to a therapist my whole life pussies and weak, and then you're like, oh, like a 1 hour talk. They're like, yes, that's why you view the world this way, and no one's actually chasing you, and you're like, oh, and they're like, you knew that, right? And I'm like, no, I kind of just been assuming for
Didn't know
34
that.
years that there's been a hyena behind me. And they're like, well, that's not real. Like even with OCD, they're like, you don't have to fold your socks, by the way. Like you're not gonna die. And I'll be like,
How'd that work out for you?
Well, no, it's great. I just do laundry once a week. I'm not
Could you
kidding
tell
though.
my wife that she doesn't have to fold her socks?
Well, don't well now you're gonna get killed. But that is that is kind of what I felt. And Ben, if you could you kind of go into what you're saying about like what makes the stresses and anxieties worth it? Like it doesn't go away, but it's
No, it doesn't
something
go
where
away.
you go,
Well, we have this, I think we have this idea in society that we need to go fix something. Like there's something to fix. We need to identify it. We need to think about it to fix it, right? And psychedelics give us that spaciousness, especially with mushrooms. I'm sure you've had experiences like I've had experiences where I've been under the medicine, and even though I'm trying to change my perspective, this one instance, this one person will just continue to permeate my consciousness, and I'm like, is going on? Why can't I get them out of there? All I want to think about is the beach. Like, how do I bring that into my manifestation? How do I bring that into my awareness? And realizing that what's going on is that they give us the opportunity to process and move the energy out of us. And sometimes it is a person, a place, a thing, or an experience that is continuing to uh, let's say like re injure us or imagine in our imagination. And what it is our body technically, if you read the book The Body Keeps Score, it's basically the premise is that all the trauma, all the experience, all these jarring experiences or even like just sad experiences are stored in the fascia of our body. And what's going on is our subconscious mind or process is creating a trigger, which sends a chemical signal to the brain. And then the brain goes through the memory of the experience. So, like, for instance, fireworks on 4th of July. We just had 4th of July, right? And there's this like, don't set off fireworks. You can, and I can tell you when I was walking down the street and there's like people blowing shit up in the parking lot where I'm just like, oh, okay, there's shit popping off right here. In my head, I'm like, because my nervous system is chill, I'm not having to do anything. I'm just like, oh, okay, like there's fireworks going off. But years prior, I'd be like, I'd be really in like an excited state. I would have my shit be ramped up because of my body. I've been practicing with spaciousness in my nervous system and working myself to be in a more relaxed state. So, because of that, the experience is such that when we work with these medicines, it's starting to release these things from our fascia and it goes through our body, our thinking process. So we go when we lay down or whatever the experience is. Oftentimes when I'm on mushrooms, my legs are going, I'm running. I'm like, I got shit to do. I got shit to do. I got shit to do. I don't have anything to do, but the anxiety part in my brain needs to move the energy out. So
uh,
then when I'm done with the medicine, my body is so relaxed. And then I don't have anxiety. I don't have a performance anxiety where I'm like, oh, I need to make sure my first sergeant knows that I'm doing well or I reported this on time or whatever it is. Those things are gone, totally gone. So yeah, I think it's important to understand that when we can bring those experiences and settle our nervous system, bring those experiences forward, and then aim ourselves in a path that feels good to us. But first, sometimes you have to create space for that. And meditators can do it real easily because they meditate regularly. So if you ask a meditator what their intentions are, they're slow, they're methodical, they're pointed in a direction, like typically not really dealing with stress. So the same thing with yogis, like do yoga all the time, right? Do you ever see someone that does yoga regularly that has any pains or issues?
hmm.
No, because they're releasing it all constantly. Because the trick here is it's all the body. Even though we say brain, this is all body. It's all body. So the brain is just an instrument that's attuned to our experience. And when we can shift the focus from the brain, fixing the brain doesn't really have any really issues outside of maybe some blood perfusion oxygenation issues, which psychedelics help with. It's turning our attention to taking care of this vessel, treating this like we're a professional athlete and we have a life to live. And the game is life. The game is what do you want to do with your life? Bringing those things in. In the military, I did a lot of planning, a lot of training. And what did I do? Training and planning for some sort of mission, executing some sort of planning. And so those are things that were given to me. I didn't necessarily choose, but I executed those things, right? So what if I could make my own plan? And the plan was for me every day to execute a plan that would get me closer to my mission, which whatever that is, 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 1 year from now. So I think it's important for us to, in my mind, in my process, especially now, it's like what is beyond the healing, what is beyond the fixing of the problems we believe we have. And that to me is aligning ourselves with purpose, aligning ourselves with people who can help us bring that purpose into reality, into manifestation. And, you know, we talked about therapy. Therapy is a great tool, but I believe, like, from my experience, I've done all the therapies. It's a process of recidivism. It's designed as a program to play forever. You're never going to be done, and that's fine. Like, you should always have someone to talk to.
Sure.
I think that the process, in my belief, what I'd like to invite into the psychedelic conversation is that these plants are here they're given to us by the earth to actually to save us. That we don't necessarily need therapy. What we need is each other. What we need is purpose, and the purpose is God given. God given meaning it comes from ourselves, right? We talk about like psychedelics being entheogenic medicines. It's like connecting to the divine within, not something coming from here. It's not bowing to someone, some idol from so far away. It's embodying the values and principles of the highest version of ourselves. And psychedelics invite that in as a possibility for us. And then once that happens, these pains are worth it. It's worth it for me to feel like adrenal fatigue because I'm 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, like hammering hard on a vision that I have that means everything to me. That's going to support my family and buy me a jet. Like those things are cool, but because that's the value that I've created in my life that I want to aim to. I mean, I'm not buying a jet anytime soon. So, but just as a dream, right?
Yeah.
So like, and it's okay to dream, like dare to dream. That's what kids do. So part of my process in this path was really observing children, young children, my kids especially, because I watch some of the stuff, like they have some secondary PTSD issues, but beyond that, when they would go into a room, they they see everything as like a toy,
Mm.
even though it's not toys, like tables and beds and bags. They're just like, oh, how can I jump on this and do flips and use this as an obstacle and duck behind it, and. So I think that's really the invitation here is like psychedelics allow us to go back and connect to the original intention of life, which to me, it can be that. It can be play.
Just to
It can
be
be
play.
excitement. It can be enjoyment. It doesn't have to be fixing problems. Kids don't even know they have problems. They're like, oh, yeah, we're, son, come over here. We're going to assign you autism. We're going to assign you slow learning or ADD. Like some adults did that because they expected them to behave a certain way and they don't because they're not made that way. We're not made that way.
It's like what Alan Watts said. He's like, have you ever seen a misshapen rock?
Exactly.
No. It's those little things that just. I think he had another one. He goes, if you asked an eagle what time it is, it would say now. And he's like, those little things just they kind of crack you out of like you go, wait. And it's but what you said about like working hard towards something, it's I don't know who said, but it's like suffering towards a goal isn't suffering. It's like not at
Yeah,
all. Like
exactly.
it's make it worthwhile. And for me, it was kind of born out of fixing, but it would just be like the worst panic attacks or feeling of depression and suicide. To me, I'd be like, if there's anything in this world that is like worth pursuing, it is to help someone feeling that. Even if it's one, ideally you do it to everyone. But you're like, if you can
Sure.
just, if you ever, like, I've literally had like a hospitalization panic attacks, like not even
Yeah.
like psychosis. And when you're in that, and then they're able to help you, even if it's just like a Valium and like a doctor being like, we're just gonna put you in this bed and you can sit here, and they know you're fine, but you don't. That feeling, and when you come, I mean, this happened to me like a year and a half ago. I mean, to the point where like, I'm a grown ass man. I'll come out of it like in tears and like hug the doctor and be like, dude, I literally just gave you like half a Valium, and I'll be like, I was in hell, and
Yeah.
to me, I'm like, that's something worth working to. If I only pursued the podcast to like laugh I'd burn out very quickly. I'd be like, all right, I've heard a lot of jokes, like all of you. But when I look at this, and I meditate every day, it's what you're saying. Get the goals. I've been meditating every day since 2008. Every day, I'll try to slow it all down, and I'll be like, and what are you doing? Okay, well, if there's one thing I've learned from the podcast, it's the ability to build networks. That's really about it. It hasn't been too financially successful. Really hasn't done just about anything else for me, but it's allowed me to build networks exquisitely easily. And I go, oh, and then here's a random cog. It's Ben. Here's another one. It's Clay. Here's another one. It's these guys. I don't even know how it's gonna work, but if through the podcast I can maybe kind of push them together, and they might turn together. They might kind of help each other. They might knock one another to like the right way. I'm like, that's worth it. And then everything else, like, can I get the podcast to like make enough money to pay rent? I'm like, yeah, I could just go get a job. It'd be easier. And it's like, but what's the bigger goal here? And it's like, oh, I can do something good through
Mm-hmm.
this. And it's, but also what you said, Ben, and I try to revert to that more is like make it play. Like it's very serious and it's very hard work, but like every day I look at like the monthly views, the monthly view hours, the monthly, and I graph it. And I've been graphing it since December 2019. I view it as a game. I'm like, all right, last month I got this many view hours. I'm like, I bet I can beat it by 10%. And if I want to beat it by 10%, I know I got to hit these goals every week. And like yesterday, like for instance, this month I'm trying to get 10,000 view hours. And I'm like, well, that means I have to get 2,500 a week. Yesterday was the seventh day, and I just broke 2.5 thousand. And I was like, all right, we're
Awesome.
going to do. There's no actual, like, I don't get anything from this, but I know it's like a healthy direction for the show. And then what can I do with the show? I can maybe move the Overton window a millimeter in my lifetime. And if it's, and as Baz says, I have Baz on here all the time. He's former CIA ground branch black ops guy. And for 32 years, he's been running ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. He literally hunts pedophiles. He's like the coolest person alive. He's like, I'll never stop human trafficking, and human trafficking will never end. I'm like, well, that's kind of blackpilling. And he's like, but ask the kids I've saved if it's meaningless to them.
Motherfucker's got a
He's
point, doesn't
like,
he?
and I'm like, oh, that's the doctor being like, I can't heal everyone. I'm like, yeah, but you just brought me back from psychosis, and I could kiss you. Oh, it's kind of worth it. And so keep it light, keep it play, but even use that like tactically, like keep it light and keep it playful so you can keep going. And then what's the vision? And it really does. It kind of makes it all worth it. The years go on, and you got to pay this and taxes that, but if you have a meaningful goal, and not I want a jet, I would like a jet too, but like not like because but then one day it's like the jet ends, and then like the trust fund kids get it and they plow it into a mountain, like that's kind of
It's
all
over.
worthless.
Right.
But if you go, man, if you could just like move mental health care a degree in the right direction, yeah, I don't care as much if like the trust fund grandkids like plow a jet into the mountain. I'm like, yeah, f-
Right.
them.
Well,
Something
yeah.
cool happened.
And to your point, keeping it local, right?
Yeah,
Keeping it local, and that's where you can make the change, right? They always say like all this government talk, when you effectuate your local community, yourself first,
yeah,
right? Work on the self first before you go start fixing other people.
yeah.
And so like do the self process, get the self in order, and then yeah, like how do we influence our friends, our families, our loved ones? And then you can start to kind of like just like we peel the layers of the
Yeah.
onion to get to the middle, to get to our soul as we go through this healing process. Once we get here, we can start building a resilience there and start adding layers of our onion back to the layers that we're impacting. But always for me, it's like I do my best to try and keep things localized. Who am I serving? Why am I doing this? What sort of impact am I having? And the feedback comes directly, like in my calls and my coaching. Like, I'm talking to people one to one or in small groups, and that's where I get the most
Mm-hmm.
value. So, I have this church that we work with people in an extended way all over the country, but I'll never stop with working in ceremony and working in retreats. I have a one to one next week, and I have a retreat in 2 weeks that I'm working. And I get a fraction of, in as far as like financial incentive, a fraction of the financial incentive of doing that than running my business. But guess what? That's really what makes me feel good.
Yeah.
That's where I can actually see the tangible effects, which continue to fuel me, right? So I think it's important, for anyone that wants to be in this industry or line of work or whatever you call it, to keep things local, to keep the impact local, because that's where the big change actually happens. Because if you think about like the causing of like the exponents of effects, like 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, like that's how things multiply outward. But if you look at it that way, if you're like, oh my God, I need to impact 5,000 people, whatever, you're never going to see it. Right. But if you just impact 2 or 4 or just your local populace, you can actually feel that, energy flow. And that will catalyze itself out on its own.
And I think that's what, and Clay, we'll let you get in here. I know we've been boxing you out, but that's what I think Duncan Trussell said. He's like, the ego, even if you want to help someone, the ego is messianic. He's like, I want to I want to cure cancer. And he's like, no, no, no. Start with bringing $4 of ramen noodle to the homeless shelter.
Mhm.
And if you're not okay with that, you're not ready to, you don't actually want to help the world. You want your name out there. And that's what I always ask. Like the podcast, I'm always like, no, this is mine. This is my hard work. And like, if I see someone clip it, I'll be like, hey, can you please give me credit? When it comes to these episodes, those thoughts don't even come into my consciousness. I'm like, put these out. And I look at it through like, I read, there's a book I read a couple years ago. It was about Krupp, Krupp, like the German arms manufacturer, and it went on for like centuries actually. And you'd go back and you read about these guys and they'd be like, I'm not only working for like just ungodly wealth, like adjusted for inflation, it's like $1 trillion. But in their minds, it was like, I want to defend my homeland where I grew up, and it's Prussia, and their kids might be like, yeah, I see where dad was coming from. Even grandpa might be like, or grandkids might be like, I see where grandpa was coming from. But you get far enough out, I look back and I'm like, Prussia, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was. But then I go, man, is that all you want like your life's work to be? And then I read another book about Joseph Lister, the guy who got people to like, he was like, hey, I think we should like clean surgical instruments in between use. And everyone was like, yo, this guy, this
We don't have
idiot.
time for that bullshit.
He was literally like, I think, he's like, so this scalpel that's covered in blood, he's like, clean it off with ethanol and then do surgery. And people were literally like, this guy's a idiot. And he'd be like, no, it's like, how like 98% of surgeries kill people? And they're like, yeah, that's just like the accepted rate. He's like, I don't think it has to be that. I think it can be like 5% kill people. And he was like laughed out of like the UK. And like he came to the United States and was like, he went on this like long, like train bound, like speaking tour during the Civil War. And like the people that didn't listen to him were like, everyone knows that when you have a gaping wound, you put dirt in it. That's just what you do. Other people are like, dude, listen to Lister. Towards the end of his life, it was finally accepted. But I look at him and something like Prussia, you go, yeah, no, it's noble to like fight for your country and your land, but that it's just kind of like another into the history books. When I look at Joseph Lister, I go, that's what it's about. It's about that man has affected my life. And I never knew who he was until I read this book at 32 years of age. But that is like true service. True service is when you do something so good and so universal that it doesn't matter if anyone remembers your name. You go, oh, yeah, no, when when you got your tonsils out, yeah, that kind of sucked. Yeah, that normally should kill you 99 out of 100 times. Oh, it doesn't? Yeah, no, it used to kill people. And then you go, who's this Joseph? And you go, oh, dude, you were, wow. Oh, wow, surgery is not a death sentence anymore. And so I try to look at that and I go, when the podcast is all done in 10 years, 50 years, 100 years, and there's not even won't even be a mode of media anymore. It'll be like like Morse code telegram. You do want something to where you might then read about it and go, oh, these guys did this and did that. And, oh, dude, did you know that like 22 veterans just commit suicide a day? Like, no, they didn't. And they'd be like, yeah, no, like 150 years ago, this used to do that. And they'd be like, No one does it anymore. If you feel suicidal, everyone knows that you just dial 111 and then a drone comes and hits you with a dart of this, that, and the other
Like
thing,
it's,
and you go do this like getaway retreat in Hawaii. Everyone knows that it's free. It's funded by the world governments, and you're flown there at the speed of light. It didn't used to be that way. They'd be like, I don't believe you. Let me read this book. And you go, holy shit. Oh, More Health. It's actually named after Benjamin Moore. You go, oh, it's like Lister, like Joseph Listerine. To me, that is like what it's about. Is do something so good, and that's the other thing. Joseph Lister. Oh, did he help the UK? No, no. UK, China, Russia, Taiwan, Madagascar. Everyone has benefited from the antiseptic technique. That to me is like that's what it's about. Find the thing where you don't care if your name is on it. But yeah, Clay, I know we've boxed you up for like the last
no, no,
hour.
no, no, it does. This is good conversation, man. No, I mean that's it. It's huge. I mean, it's the next thing that we're looking at on our side too is it's not like I have this huge amount of time in this space, but I've already figured out what I'm doing. We want to grow and have branches. That's why we did it church style. We can in pretty short order affect thousands and thousands of veterans. It won't be me affecting them anymore. It'll be the 100 guys that came to my camp and figured out to be a priest for us. That's fine, man. That's totally fine. That's the end state, and from there it can expand out to the genocide, the self genocide that's happening all in the Rust Belt and Appalachia. At some point, it's about just getting the information out there. All right. At some point, it may be about the legal fight to make sure that we can win. We can see this legalized in our lifetime. Is that we still operate in a pretty gray area, if you will. It's only even been in the last 20 years that this was a winnable fight in the legal sense. So yeah, it's just pretty crazy, but yeah, I mean, it's how I say it too.
Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with the solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
So it's not to so like sometimes when I'll do have these like talks about kind of these like bigger meta ideas, it's like it's very easy to everyone like feel good about yourself, and then it's like the show ends and the person sitting there just kind of with like with a phone, and like the episode's over, and they're like, wait, now what? It's like watching a motivational speech and be like, let's go get it, and then it finishes. You're like, what are we getting?
Fucking
As
question mark profit. Fuck.
as Tim Dillon says, he's like, when Gary Vee is like, wake up and get it. He's like, where are we going? Do you have an address? I want to go get it. Who are we fighting? Like, do I need a weapon? Where are we go? Who are we crushing? But like, so the simplest example is like, yeah. So let's say we're doing an episode about pollution. It's like, well, the first thing you do is whenever you go out and go to the grocery store, pick up one piece of trash, and it's like that's something you can do to kind of shift everything we've been talking about. And if Ben, you could kind of, because I think you've had more experience with Clay and I. How do you? So we don't have to be convinced. We're all preaching to the choir. This stuff helps. How do you get someone, not just someone who's iffy on does this work, but are also at the kind of DEFCON 1 level of they're suicidal? It's hard to get them to do anything. How do
Yeah.
you start to even move them because of 2025, it's not 2125, it's not as accepted as, hey man, we're going to go to the ER. It's a lot different when you have to be like, hey, I'm doing this like like legally, hey, this is a medicine, or hey, legally this is a medicinal, or this is a religious sacrament, or legally this is a whatever, this is a family heir, whatever hoops you have to jump through. How do you
Yeah,
even get people to move from that insanely fragile state of they're ready to take their life? You really can't be more fragile than that. How do you get them
sure.
to a place of malleability?
Yeah, well, it's not easy. So some of the people I've worked with who are, say, like more high risk, are typically referred by close friends of theirs who are watching over them or are providing care, that know that they're at high risk, or that they're suicidal. So it's like thinking about how you can't force anybody to do anything, and when you do, it can create even more resistance. And so, ideally, it's like, for us, for me, and in the community that I serve, it's always about being present, being available, and not necessarily talking about psychedelics, but just being available as a person, as a shoulder, as a leaning post for everyone. And then that can be the ancillary medicine, right? Because what's the first medicine is community. It's not psychedelics. Psychedelics are part of the path or the journey to wellness. But if someone is like, you know, walled up in their house and on the phone with you, drunk,
Yeah.
talking about ending their life, like, you don't bring in like, hey, yo, I got some
You
bufo
don't
for
bring
you.
some acid, yeah.
Yeah, like, let's, so I mean, it's something I'd like to introduce to that experience, but it's just when someone isn't, it's just because the nervous system is engaged. So you have the sympathetic nervous system, which that's the what runs all the fight or flight, panic, all these things. When it's overclocked, there's no logical brain. There's no logical brain processing at all. People think that everybody's out to get them. Everybody's trying to whatever they're going through, which I can tell you I've gone through this, right? I've had an emotional breakdown, nervous breakdown, where I get in my car because I'm thinking that the feds are coming to my house.
Oh yeah.
So I get in my car and drive down the street, and everybody on their cell phone. In my mind, I'm like,
Oh yeah.
they're all
Oh,
reporting on my
oh, I've been
location.
there. Pure paranoia.
Yeah.
Psychotic
So
paranoia. It's
so
hell.
so right. So because I've experienced it, I understand it in the way that's like, okay, well, you can't you can't be sensical to someone who's in that state. So really, the ideal situation is just create enough space for them so that they can't do anything violent to themselves or to others, but allow them to go through until they get to at least a period of relaxation, and then bringing in potential routes of medicine. So, um, firstly, this isn't a medicine that I prefer because it's not a psychedelic, but everyone calls it a psychedelic. It's ketamine.
Hmm.
And ketamine is a great way in for people who have that resistance to, anything, resistance because it's something they can go and get at an actual treatment center. It can be medicalized. So people that don't trust or have issues can go, okay, I'll try that. I'll try that once. And their therapist, who they talk to regularly, potentially, can recommend it to them, right? So they can get that. That's like an acute intervention for suicidality, not a long-term treatment, right? It more reminds me of these like painkillers, like opiate painkillers. You don't want to take opiates forever, but if you have an amputation or you have some other wound, it's great for that acute pain relief. So same with ketamine. And then once they get at least acknowledging that they can use that, then moving into other plant medicines that can help to alleviate or help to create space for a more fruitful life. But again, it's always difficult to force someone in. Like you said earlier, bring a drone in and shoot them with a dart.
Yeah.
I've always imagined like DMT or 5-MeO DMT is so potent, you could put a gas grenade with it and just gas them out. And potentially, I can imagine a future that could be great for crowd dispersal, preventing suicide, whatever.
I would
whatever
show up at
issue,
every
right?
riot.
I would
Right.
start riots.
Right. So,
Just
so
be there like, we're writing.
I mean, that my kid brain goes, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It could that
Yeah,
we
why
can
not?
fucking make that. We can make that. But we don't have those yet. So, trying to force someone in, it can be difficult. So yeah, getting them sober and giving them a hug.
I,
That's
No.
like that's the first step.
I know. I think that the order of operations is very important. The very first thing is like, yeah, don't just go over. Be like, "Hey, I'm coming over." Not like, hey, talk to me tomorrow. Like, I'm coming over.
Oh, this
I'm
is
Yeah,
this
you
is a
can't get off the phone.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't get
yeah.
off the
Stay,
phone.
hey, bro, I'm
You're
gonna
on
be
the
right. I'll be
phone.
there in 20 minutes, and then
Yeah.
I'm gonna be over. And like you said, well, why don't you? How am I gonna fix myself? Like when I was really suicidal, it was July 2016. It's actually about 9 years, probably right around now. And like and it was 2.5 years since my brother died, and like my parents knew I wasn't doing good, my other brothers knew I wasn't doing good, and I had been getting worse and worse. And then finally I like called my mom and I was like, I need you to come get me. And when I said that, like things went into motion that I could no longer stop. It was the president saying like, we're going to DEFCON 1. Things are happening. Even if you say, hey, we're not going to DEFCON 1 anymore, they're going to be like, that's an imposter. Like things had
Yeah.
gone into motion that I knew were never going to be undone. Like I was like, I'm gonna go have to live at home. I told them, I was like, I want max 2 weeks, and they're like, well, it might be longer. So it ended up being 5.5 years. But like, so like, I went and did that. But that's the first thing you do. Then, and nobody was like, you need to take some acid because, dude, you're not stable. The first thing was like, go to a therapist, and it literally started with like,
no.
no, for me, I was suicide. You're not thinking at all rationally, and it was
See,
they.
I handle this in a completely different way,
Sure, go
though.
for it.
Yeah, I see, especially suicidal thought as potentially, one is potentially terminal right fucking now. So, what's the downside to me getting you to take
No, no, no,
a
no, no, no,
sacrifice?
no, no, no. I'm with you. Because it's like, hey, if you're about to kill yourself, why not try this? That's easy for us to rationally think about. When
This is
you're in that
exactly
spot, you're
this
like,
is exact. No,
okay,
but what I'm
sorry,
telling you is
okay,
this is exactly how I handle my guys.
okay,
Especially like stop better and shit. Like I'm drunk, I'm gonna kill myself and shit. Like, all right, check it out, Holmes. I will be there in X amount of time. Like, pick the phone. I don't know, it's a 9 hour flight.
yeah,
Hold your shit together, which I know you can do for 9 hours until I get there. Show up at the sacrament kit. They're still in a weird place when killing some weird bullshit. It's very easy to manipulate that situation, I think, into let's try this. And if it doesn't work, you can still kill yourself tomorrow. And if
oh
that
yeah,
has to be whatever I need to say, like, hey, let's get, you're gonna kill yourself, that sucks. Let's get high for like 8 hours. You
yeah,
want to? Here we go. Here's the goodies. Never once have they woken up from that and been like, well, I'm still going to go through with it. And
yeah,
if they're all crazy anyway, they're like, well, you don't want to do this because I'm afraid that I'll hurt everybody else. Like, I got you, dog. I will put you down if I have to mid process. I'm not going to have to. They're going to lay down and go to sleep. It's going to be fine. I feel like, though, that direct intervention right now, however it has to be done, usually solves the problem. So that's how I skin that cat.
and I think that it's kind of it's not one size fits all. I have no
True.
military
Very true.
background. I'm not a
Yeah.
special forces guy. I know everyone's very surprised that I'm not in Delta Force, but I actually just do a podcast and I'm a loser. If you came to me with that, I'd be like, absolutely not. Absolutely. Like what I needed was my parents came and it was also different. It was like
Sure.
pretty much, I was like on suicide watch, pretty much. They were like,
Yeah.
you're gonna. So even if like therapy didn't work right away, there was no like, all right, we'll go home and I hope you're here next. It was like, I was in prison. It was like, no, 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 no. We're like, you were going to be like chaperoned through therapy, and slowly got better. I think for other dudes like SF guys, yeah, my mode might not work where I'm like, hey, we're gonna go to you. They might need that like
They do.
but you but that's the thing is like and that is where the
Different paths.
multifaceted approach
Yeah,
comes from.
agreed.
If
Yeah.
you came to me like I would do, I would run away. I'd be like, I would rather kill myself. Here's this crazy guy trying to give me acid. Versus like from the guys you know, like it might be they need that direct action of like we're doing it now. And but I think ultimately, and what you said about ketamine, Ben, is even that is for people that are more like me. It might be like I know it's all corrupt and all, but there's something about like going to like a doctor in a white coat, and that might just be what you need. And when you're at that suicidal level, anything other than pulling the trigger, I feel like is a win. So if your mode is I need Clay to like force feed me tabs of acid, or I need Ben to come give me a hug and like drive me to the doctor and they're gonna give me a thing of ketamine and then we're gonna follow up tomorrow. To me, there's no like wrong. It's like
No, there's not.
these
No, there's absolutely not.
it's a fork in the road, left or right.
Right.
Going in reverse is suicide. I'm like, go left or right.
Right.
I don't give a shit. And I think that's kind of the importance of it. And what you were saying, Ben, about it's like therapy can go for, and I think my therapist said that like this, you can do this forever, if you want, but like she was like, you're finished, and she was like, in the best way I know this, she's like, I know I'll do my job because we never talk again. Like I text her on like Christmas, but that's it. And she's like that. That's how I know I've done my job, and that's the thing is like it's pain. Yeah, you go in, you get tonsils out. Yeah, they're gonna give you morphine when they're actually carving up your throat, and then less intense. They're no longer actively slicing you, but over the next couple of weeks you're gonna be on Vicodin or oxycodone. Okay, and then you're gonna weed off that. You're probably still gonna want some like ibuprofen for like another month after that, and then kind of move on. You don't need ice cream anymore. Now you can do warmer stuff, and then it's like now you can have solid foods again. But it's all this movement. No one thing works at any one time. Like if they're like, all right, we're gonna cut your throat, and we don't have anesthesia, but we have chocolate ice cream. Like what the like, and the same thing. Like 3 months later, you don't want to be like, yeah, it's still a little scratchy. Like, all right, well, we're gonna put this needle in your arm. It's morphine. You're gonna be like, I don't know if I need that. Like that's kind of, but when placed in the right chronological order, it's a funnel towards healing. So I think to me that's the thing I'm most interested in is like how do you get people to simply step away from the cliff? And yeah, I don't know if there's a one size fits all. Clay, you're saying that you just go straight out. Do you think that like honest? Do you think that would work though on someone like who's not special forces?
I've never even considered trying it, so
That's what I mean.
know.
That's
Yeah,
what I mean.
I don't know.
You're like, no, go there and take. I'm like, dude, if you told me you're flying to me with that right now, I'm not. Everything's good. If you told me you were flying to Portland with acid, I'd be like, yeah, I'm okay, Clay. I might call Dale. I'd be like, Dale, you're the only one I know that could kill Clay. Like, can you and so like that's what
Well, it does work. I mean,
sure.
honestly, it works in a different way too. This is one thing I've learned about, especially like my brothers over the last couple of years. They will go to a doctor and lie their ass off, and a shrink too.
Yeah,
They're never
you don't want to be committed.
No, and also your entire life, like psychologists were your enemies. They were one of the only people that could like rubber stamp you if you're not doing your job anymore. You're finished, or you're not selected for this thing, or you can't go. I mean, you have to do stupid shit like go see a psychologist before you can go to a sniper school for us.
Yeah.
So it does work in a completely different way. It basically has to be approached in like a ritual and pure like, hey, I'm a gangster too, and I said we're doing this kind of way. And there's also just kind of like certain cultural ways you have to get them to do that. Like if I tell a guy I'm going to force feed, you're like, well, maybe I'll just whip your ass and make me feel better too. Like, all right, this isn't good. But there's ways I can handle that too as a peer. Like, hey, you're too much of a pussy. Like, whatever. Just like you were at California, whatever it takes to get him to ride the rodeo. It's just a different approach. And a lot of these approaches, this is honestly one of the reasons I feel like I've had to do my path is because it works for a certain segment of dudes.
Yep.
This is one of the reasons that psychedelic space needs to be expanded. There's different shit for even different medicines. There are medicines that I won't work with that I don't like. But other people have had huge success with them. I don't think those medicines are bad. They're not for me. And they're not for a lot of people that I know. But people have great success with it. LSD, for instance, I don't care for LSD, but you've had great success with it. I know other people that have had huge success with that. So there's a lot of space and a lot that needs to be done just across the board.
I wanted to ask Ben about this because I think you and I are more similar in this case of like looking at it subjectively. Like for me in college, I would never bring my debit card out to the bars. I would always leave
Smart
it at
man.
home, and I bring $40. And I go, whatever happens to that $40, I don't need to buy all my friends shots. If you really want to get drunk, you'll find a way. You know, you picking up drinks, like whatever. Like, all right. The next day, you go, well, yeah, it makes sense. I didn't bring my debit card. There was never one time that I didn't bring my debit card that I was not like, should I go get a cab home? We'll get a debit card and I'll bring it back. Like there was never one, and I would do hundreds of times. Every single time, I was like, I should have brought this. I can make this night so much better. You really can't, man. It's your college town. Beers are $1. Like, what are you realistic? It's not Vegas for sure. You can maybe get a better suite or get bottle service. You're in a shitty college town drinking shit. Like, it really can't. And every day, the next day, I'd go, thank God I didn't do that because I'm on a fucking college budget. It makes so much sense in hindsight. Now the difference between this and so what would happen if I did bring my debit card? You might spend $200. You wake up, you go, okay, but that's it. You go. Now replace debit card with suicide. There's no. You wake up the next day, you go, I can't believe I killed myself last night. It's so embarrassing. No,
That's so fucking dumb. Why did I do that?
but
Yeah.
it's done. There's no,
Yeah.
and the people around you can maybe learn from it, but a lot of them, it just you kind of just transfer it to them, and now they're fucked up. Like, so to me, I try to be like as empathetic as I can. And Ben, what you're saying, you're like, yeah, driving around, like, dude, I've driven myself to the hospital and thought the car behind me was tailing me, and then the next day you're like, that was just some dude named Abdul doing DoorDash, like,
Yeah, when you start really paying attention, you realize like everybody's on their phone.
Oh shit.
Fuck.
you
I'm
come
on my
back,
phone
you
right
go,
now.
everyone's still on their phone, and then you
Yeah.
go, can you imagine if someone looked at you and went, "Are you reporting me to the feds?" You'd be like, "I don't have any money, man." You go, "Oh, they're not even looking at me. They're scared of me because I'm like clammy and sweating." Like, but for me, it's like panic attacks, bringing your debit
Sure.
card out. That's all. You can learn from those. You cannot learn subjectively from suicide, and I think that is maybe where your method, that's the one I'm more partial to. But yeah, Clay, like I don't think like my method would work on Dale. Like
No,
Dale
it
Dale
wouldn't.
was Delta Force. Yours
Yeah.
would. Yours is actually the
Right.
only thing that would even come
Only thing that would
close.
work. Yeah.
Well,
Versus
and also
yeah.
to the point of like the community of like for like individuals, right? Firefighters, police officers, veterans. So that's why it's so important to, I say, like be an exemplar in the population for the community that we represent, because those people see us and they trust us. So, when I have soldiers calling me up asking me questions, it's because they trust me, they see me, they know my background, and they understand that the things I'm going to tell them are at least coming from my own experience. So it's not like some stranger in a lab coat or some person that they have to deal with. It's at least someone that they can speak the language, and a lot of it's languaging. A lot of the communication stuff's languaging, which erodes the barriers between individuals, and which again that invites in that level of trust where people can be like, okay, yes, I'll let you come over here and give me what you want because I do want to take a chance. I'd rather kill my ego first and give it that a shot before I actually kill the body.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's really important distinction here when we talk about individuals needing individual care and individual populations. Let's think about like especially service members, and not just like military service, but firefighters, police officers. Like that's almost like the ultimate form of ego, right? It's like the ultimate form of identity, and so being able to identify with someone else, it definitely creates that the access that wasn't previously there. Now, I was never a first responder But I've worked with firefighters and police officers. I actually worked with former chief of the fire department in Austin, and so in my partner, my friend who I worked with, is a firefighter. So he wouldn't have come to me, right? Because he doesn't know me, but he knows he didn't technically know him either, but he was a firefighter. So he found that safety through that channel. And this guy was like, and I really feel for firefighters, paramedics, like, because they don't get to come home. They don't get to leave war behind. It's everywhere. It's everywhere to them. So, it's a little different dynamic there. But to your point, Clay, it's like some people need certain style of communication. And I've certainly sat and had these conversations where it's like, let's give it a shot to kill your ego, and I sort of get poetic with it in a way, just because of my experience. But like going back to like these philosophers and these people of old, before psychedelics were erased from the conversation, a few thousand years ago, where we used to go back and kill our egos, like die before we died, right? The Eleusinian mysteries were like a very, very, very loud example of that. But it was so much more beyond that. Like cultures, populations everywhere did this. The Navajo, when they came back from warring with tribes, would go on what's called the war chant way, where they would come back, spend 3 days in medicine, in purification rituals, like clearing out the ghosts from themselves, right? Because it was a ritualistic process. So we've sadly, as a modern warring culture, have lost that element of the experience, because we're trained to learn how to go to war and to die. We weren't trained to be taken care of or recovered. It's just not in the way the protocols are built. That's why the VA has such a hard time caring for us. It's just because it's not there. So I see it as we have created that in ourselves. One of the tenets of the Army service manuals, like, we serve for the people to our left and right. We're not serving for the mission. I mean, we accomplished the mission, but what is the purpose of service? It's like we're serving for our brothers and sisters. And so, I see it as we've all been trained to care for one another. Well, service members especially, but that's what we do. Hey, you're late. What's going on? How can I figure out how to help you? What are you going through? And so I think the system as it is isn't made for that. It's us as individuals. This is why we're the ones doing it. This is why it's like feels right. Like, fuck yeah, it feels right. Like, I'm gonna get my dudes water. I'm gonna get my dudes shelter. It's as simple as that. But this is just another element, another bandage. So yeah, I mean, that feels like it's like a total natural process. And we have all these people like hooting and hollering, like, why isn't the government doing this or doing that? It's just because they're not made for it. They're not made for it. There's no incentive there. It's all for us. It's all on us. So, but in that way, it makes it easier. It makes it easier because we're able to, deliver the medicine to people without all these barriers and limitations. And that's through the church model, which is legal, is safe, is effectuous. It's just using the right verbiage, obviously, as we talked about in the beginning of this call. Like, say the right words.
Yeah. Use big words and keep it small. But yeah, what you said, like, the government should do this. Like, yeah, but they're not. So,
if they tried, they'd probably fuck it up anyway.
Yeah. So like, step up. Like, it's is it Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F? It's one of my favorite quotes. Somebody knocks on your door and there's a baby in a carriage. That is not your fault, but it's your responsibility. It is not your fault. You didn't do that. It's your responsibility. That you got to. I think he says you call the cops or feed it to a pit bull. Either thing, you got to now choose. It's not your fault, but you get T-boned by a drunk driver. Not your fault, dude. You have the green light. You look both ways. It is your responsibility, and not our fault. It's not our fault that it's corrupt as shit. But hey, it's what it is. What tools do we have? All right, I have a podcast. You guys both have experiences. You can make a church. Clay can write. You put all the pieces together. All right, how do we start building this fire in the wilderness? Well, there should be shelter, man. Can you imagine like a caveman being like, there should be shelter? There's not. There should be food. It's like, pick up a club and go beat a woolly mammoth to death, like your father and your father's father. Like, Yes, it should be warm. It's not. Like, get the bearskin coat, like whatever. It's not. It should be, but it's not. And to me, I'm like, that's the end. And then it's also, it's kind of a gift, man. It's that Teddy Roosevelt quote: "By far and away, the best thing about life is working towards something that's worth working towards." This is the absolute best thing. It's, you ever beat a video game? You ever finish a book? It's the worst feeling in the world.
Sober.
You this. You what? What do? You find the next thing. So
Right. Yeah.
you want to achieve it. Work towards that goal. And it's a noble goal. It's not a video game. It's preventing people from killing themselves. But also at the same time, like, do you know how great it is to have a noble thing to work towards? It's truly, it's a gift. It's a gravitational pull. It gives life meaning. You go, oh, I'm a sack of shit, and my podcast sucks. But if I can help one person, you go, that is something that no one can take away from me.
That's right.
And you go, all right. So, Clay, we've been kind of boxing you out. Any thoughts on that?
No, dude, no, I'm 100% with it, man. It's I mean, it's mission again, and yeah, that is it. It doesn't matter if it's a van down by the river or some bullshit ass method that you did it. As long as it worked, yeah, that's purpose. And that's honestly, in a lot of ways, sometimes there are people that are upset that we were born now and not in the 50s, specifically so we couldn't fight in World War II because that would have sucked. And fucking be too old for Nam in 1965, whatever. Yeah, maybe it would have been easy, but easy sucks. Just look at it as an honor. You were born in this shitty time to deal with these shitty problems, and you gotta be a tough guy to deal with it. And you gotta think outside the box and do some crazy shit.
And it's also like, regardless if it would have been good or bad, you weren't born in the 50s.
Right? No shit. Here we are.
Can you imagine just saying, like, I just wish I was born in the 50s. I feel like it would have been more magical. Your landlord's like, I don't care. Rent was due 4 days. What are you doing?
$2,000.
What are you doing? You're like, yeah, it's just, it's an unjust world. I think I would have been better as like a kind of like a nuclear family guy. Like, hey, you have to pay this bill. Like, you can't leave the gas station. You're like, I just think the world was different back then. They're like, I'm gonna call the police if you don't pay. Like, it doesn't matter. It shoulda, coulda, woulda. Off. But we're coming up on, or we've gone over an hour, so we're gonna wrap it up. Ben, I don't think I have any links for any of your stuff. Can you tell people where to find you, how to help, blah blah blah, and as well text me those, and I'll put them in the description.
So a few things. Right now we do a monthly meditation using medicine that's live streamed, so people can actually participate with our experiences. And part of the greater expansion is of my current purpose is to give people the tools to provide them training to do these things at home with their community, with each other, without having to go to a facilitator. Not that those aren't great, which I love, and I am one, but we all have the right to do these things on our own with our family, our friends, whoever we choose. So we've been providing education resources around training those things so people can learn how to do that at home. And so my church is The Sacred Synthesis. So it's literally thesacredsynthesis.com. And on there is like this website, myriad of tools and resources. And then we have a YouTube. We do a YouTube video with education weekly. So people can get that on, if you just go on YouTube, The Sacred Synthesis, it's the same. And then, and also send you some links if that's useful. And then, the meditation to register for that is _5/Jaguar. Jaguar, like the animal, like this.
I was gonna say it's a sick shirt.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's got a little 5 Amigo guy right there.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Yeah, and so, Ben, if you could text me those links, and I'll put them in the description. And Clay, from you, what, Barbarian Spirit?
Yeah, yes, for all of our stuff that is at Barbarian Spirit. We're primarily focused right now on we're doing a little bit of a build out for our retreat, and we're primarily focused right now on combat arms guys, so grunts, EOD, and soft guys. But yeah, that's our stuff.
Where are you located, Clay?
Arkansas.
Arkansas. Oh, sweet. I'm in Texas. I'm like 4 hours away from Mount Ida. Okay, we'll have to link up.
Yeah, we're up in the Ozarks,
okay.
But I'm actually down in your neighborhood. We got not for this, but for gun stuff. We got clients all around your area.
Cool.
And have I
All right, well, let's chat offline.
and if I have I put you guys in
Yeah, for sure.
touch? I probably should ask that
You have
beforehand.
not. Yeah, throw us
I
a
have not.
text.
Okay, well, I'll give you each other's numbers, and
Yeah.
then I don't even know if I need to put a disclaimer before or after. But yeah, what Clay does is purely religious. It is not medicine, even though like Ben, I always refer to it as the medicine because I think I picked that up from Ram Dass. Just like I literally have world-renowned doctors on here telling people to take, a multivitamin. They'll be like, and make sure you say it's not medical advice. I think it's a multivitamin. They're like, trust me, just
Trust me.
I'm like, all right. It's like literally had someone be like, yeah, just work hard and live below your means. And they'll be like, that's not financial advice. I'd be like, do you really have to? You have to say that? Like, Jesus. Like,
Modern
all
day.
right, well, no,
Modern
this isn't medical finance. All right. But yeah, just for legal reasons and
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But yeah, gentlemen, thank you both so much for your time. And last thing I wanted to say is, people listening, there's what you said, Ben, about like feeling paranoid and like driving down the street. I actually think one of the most helpful things people can do is be honest about their experiences so other people don't feel so crazy. Like
Yes.
Or
it
alone.
helps
Yep.
it like helps to hear you say that because I'm like I tell people all the time like panic attacks and shit, but like hearing you I'm like that makes me feel so much better. I'm like, yeah, no, the guy on the sidewalk, he's watching me, isn't it? And yeah, I felt that too. He's not watching you, but I felt it too. That means more than you know, especially when you're on the edge. It means so much more to be like, instead of like, hey bro, you doing all right? Be like, so how close is your gun to you? You're like, it kind of takes you off your back foot, but
Mhm.
it's important to talk about that and be
Yeah.
like, hey man, like it does make, and like sometimes that's all you need to be like, oh, like because you can't make that up. Like what you said, like that's not something you like. You have to experience that, like looking over, like hearing shit. Like you have to go through that paranoia to actually know. And then it also helps you go. And when you associate with someone like that, you can go, but look, like and now I'm better. So if you're there right now, you can get to right here. Like
That's
I've
right.
I've been it too, dude. You think your microwave's listening to you. Like, yeah, yeah, like, yeah, what you need is like we need to get you on sleep. But like until you're in that moment subjectively, like you won't know what it's like. So I think just as an addendum, like I think that's one of the most important things that the average person can do. You don't have a podcast, you don't have a veteran network, you don't have a church. One thing you can do is just be very open about your own experiences because it will make people feel, for like lack of a more serious term, it'll make them feel less silly when
Right.
they're
No,
just
that's
at
good.
the
That's
bottom.
very
Very
important.
true.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think that's the most important part. So, gentlemen, you guys are doing the Lord's work. We'll absolutely do another one. I will put you guys in touch right now.
Yeah,
And
appreciate
yeah,
it, dude.
Ben,
Yeah.
text me those links. I'll put those in the description.
Right.
This will be up tomorrow. And for everybody listening, thank you so much. And gentlemen, again, it's an honor. Thank you so much for what you guys do.
Thank you.
All right, guys.
Recording
Take care,
stopped.
everybody. God bless. Peace.